Hello, I'm Heather Brooks,
I'm Cardyn Brooks.
and we are the moderators for the Right Women Book Fest 2025 virtual panel discussion, Memoir Authors, The Art of Writing Memories. Our panelists today are Shikha Bajaj, Ivy Quinn, Jennia D'Lima, and that's it for today. There's a couple of panelists, so I won't go on about that, and we will catch up with those panelists later and do something different with them. And I think that we're going to let Cardyn start with asking the questions. Thank you
Sure.
so much for being here today. And thank you for being patient while we waited a little bit. We appreciate that. We know your time is valuable and we don't want to disrespect it. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much. And
So,
Card, take it away.
yes. So, memoirs. Let me start with kind of the obvious question, and maybe Jenya, if you don't mind, launching us into the discussion about what motivated you to write your memoir.
Well, I do not write memoirs, but I
Okay.
do edit a lot of them.
Ah,
And I
gotcha.
also, yes, since I'm also the creative nonfiction expert over at NAWI,
Yeah,
so I do webinars based around memoirs every single year.
yeah.
But I
So
can
let me,
understand why people do it.
right. So, what, as for your being on that end of it, kind of was that a decision, a conscious decision on your part? Like, then how did you get into that kind of being your specialty?
I've always really enjoyed reading memoirs, and admittedly, they started off with some of the more salacious celebrity memoirs,
Mhm.
where you would come back thinking, I can't believe this actually happened to a person. And then, of course, as consumer interests have shifted, especially in the last 5 or 10 years, we've seen more from, I don't want to say just everyday people, but
Yeah.
that's really what it is. And because we do all have such fascinating stories, which we can figure that out even just from a dinner party or meeting people at an event and listening to them, it just strikes that human interest chord, wanting to learn more about what someone has gone through and how it has shaped who they are now, or even how resilient they are from everything that they've gone through. And I just
Yeah.
find that really admirable and inspiring.
Yeah. Have you seen, you mentioned the shift from, like, it seemed like the celebrity memoir dominated, and now you're
Mhm.
seeing an expansion to kind of the everyday person, or maybe a particular experience that they had that the public became
Yes.
aware of, and then they want to get to know that regular person. Are there any other patterns that you've seen in memoir from when you started to now?
A lot of it seems to reflect what's going on in the current media or the socio-political climate. So, for instance, we're seeing a lot more about kids who grew up within reality television or
Mm,
as influencers, or so I'm thinking about that one with the one influencer mom. Her child's book was really, really popular. And then the same with that one Nickelodeon star, whereas before, this would have been
I'm glad
unheard
my
of 10
mom's
years ago.
dead. That
Yes,
yes.
oh,
Oh,
yes.
mhm.
I keep wanting to read that.
Yeah, and 10 years ago, these would have been completely unheard of because it
Mhm.
wasn't even really a thing or it hadn't been around long enough. And so obviously it creates this growing interest because this is new and it's fresh. It's not the same type of memoir we've read over and over again. And I think we're going to continue seeing it evolve in that way. So it does pick up on whatever is happening within our world at that moment. And now we're getting that deeper dive into it rather than that shallowly presented whatever
Mm,
image,
mhm.
movie, videos, whatever it is, and we're seeing what it really is like behind the scenes or what it really is like for a person living within that experience.
Mm. And to tie into your comments about that, I think Britney Spears' ex-husband, I don't know if the memoir is out yet, but I've seen more interviews of him kind of making the rounds. So if it's not out yet, it feels like it's coming out soon. And then I guess the other night I saw a very funny interview with Malala Yousafzai, because she was talking about how people still um, react to her in public like
Um,
she's still that child who was
Yes.
almost killed for wanting to go to school. And she's
They
like,
think
I'm
she's
28.
15 still. Yeah, right.
Right. She's like, I'm 28. I'm married. I'm like, so, and when I heard her that little snippet, what I thought was just like, oh, you feel like you have to write a memoir to let people know, hey, time has passed. Like,
yes.
like we need to move on. All right. Oh, okay. So thank you for that, because that's a very different angle of approach for a memoir. So let me see if I remember my notes correctly. Ivy, did you actually write a memoir?
I've been working on some
Okay.
because I've been back in school, and so it was last spring. It was either work on a project and like take poetry class, and that's not to
Mm,
shade poetry. I just not am any good at it. So the
yeah.
other class I had to take was a creative nonfiction class, and so for that one I did a 13,000 word piece that I'm not sure I'll do anything with it because I don't.
Yeah.
That's the reverse side of memoir where it's like
Yeah.
I don't want my family to kill me right now, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of working through sort of feelings of grief and other types of issues that I didn't have another way to process as
Right.
well. And so getting through that and the timeline on that was very helpful. So I took it for a cathartic reason, but then I actually really loved taking the creative nonfiction
Mm.
class. So next semester, I'll also be taking a more formal memoir class with the same
Oh,
professor. So
oh,
learning a
that's
lot about those types of memoirs, doing a lot of reading of different
right.
memoirs and things over the last year. So I've really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of hoping to work on a slightly funnier, more sort of slice of life piece this time around. And then that might be something I'm looking to shop around to like magazines or something when it's done.
So it sounds like your memoir experience, whatever it ultimately ends up being, was kind of like an indirect introduction to.
Yeah, because I usually write fiction, but I was like, I want to get deeper in touch with my own emotions because I figured that would be transferable to writing characters who are more in touch with
Mm,
their own.
mm,
And, again, it was just really revelatory to see just the different ways memoir is presented. I think a lot of what I learned from that particular class, and hopefully will continue to learn with a deeper dive in the
yeah,
memoir full out class, is just the
yeah.
forms it can take. Like
Yes.
just you think about it being very and Jeannie, you can say this, if I'm wrong or not, but I know some memoirs are people think they're just linear. They're like almost autobiographies or something, but as opposed to like having different motifs or might be a theme of that particular memoir, or like we said, how Malala can write two memoirs, and sometimes it's about different time points of your life or different experiences you want to highlight specifically within that book. And so I think that's really the interesting part. But I really, really love is when they think about different forms. Like I just read a Silent Treatment by Jeannie Vanasco, and like so
Mhm.
in hers, she had a recurring motif of talking to her Google Home to research why her mother was practicing like months of selective mutism with her and not
Oh,
talking to her at all.
oh,
And so it would be like these memories, but they'd be interstitial with like research into selective mutism and research into ostracism. And it's kind of like, how
mm,
do you shape those forms to
yeah.
carry the interest of the story, which I really
Mm.
appreciate for that. And there's a lot of creativity within memoir and creative nonfiction that I don't know if people are always aware of, but I've been really enjoying digging into it.
And you said that one is called The Silent Treatment?
A silent treatment, but
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Excellent. Now, Shika, what is your experience with memoir? Have you written a memoir? What motivated you? And now going with what Ivy was saying about themes and what Jennia was saying about kind of expanding, like in recent times, the expansion of the idea of memoir. How do you fit into that?
Yeah, so I've only written one book. This is the book I wrote. It's called Own Your Color.
Oh, I love that.
Uh, I was inspired to share my own story and help give back and empower everybody, but especially working women
Yeah.
who are immigrants or women of color or women of wherever,
Yes.
just live life on their own terms,
Mm,
get rid of self doubt, be clear on what they want, embrace their whole self with all their
yeah.
quirks and strengths, and just live with confidence and commitment to become the best version of themselves. And that motivation came in through COVID.
Mm,
So I work as a partner in a digital consulting company. Millions of women were quitting workforce
mm,
during COVID because of lack of enough structure and support. And that piqued my interest into researching why women are quitting and not men.
mhm,
And it just led to very fascinating learnings about how we as women put in a lot of pressure on ourselves to be super like 10 on 10, 24
yes.
by 7.
Yes.
And that really doesn't help because there is a lot of societal expectation and burden, and how trying to like please everybody, we end
Yeah.
up actually ignoring our own self. So that led me to actually a big internal self journey of everybody that I've been trying to please and still feel like, haven't been able to because somebody's still unhappy. So I just did not want, I just felt like I had a lot of experiences growing up in India, moving to US, trying to make my own dreams real, making them real, and still realizing I wasn't happy because I was just trying to please people rather than living true to my own values. And that's why I wrote the book. So this was my way of giving back, so that others don't actually have to waste 40, 4 decades or 40 years of their life learning it the hard way and knowing that everything they were told was a lie.
Yeah.
That
Now,
is
yeah.
so relatable. What a relatable topic, and what a perfect topic for a women's book festival. So thank you for participating.
Shikha, may I follow up and ask you more specifically
Sure.
the significance of your title, Own Your Color?
I'm so glad you asked. So the word color makes everybody feel like it's the color of my skin or your skin or race or hair. But color essentially means your whole self. So which is your roots, your values, your strengths, your weaknesses, your quirks. So when you are not apologetic about who you are, where you come from, you end up actually blooming fully and colorfully. And that's why the word color.
Yes.
And just recently, actually, talking about women, so at Pennsylvania Conference for Women, I launched a whole power toolkit, which is you should know your color. So a lot of women loved the book, and they said it's a lot of work to actually read the book, and then it has activities at the end of every chapter, like what are your values, what are your limiting beliefs, but it's a lot of hard work. Can you simplify it? So what I did was there is a quiz that you can take online, which will tell you what are your primary strengths, which is know your color. There are 6 color archetypes. So the more you lean into your strengths, the easier it will be for you to be confident and not worry about what you're not good at. So I've come up with that toolkit to just, again, give back and help advance everybody's confidence, clarity, and courage.
And being responsive to your readers, like that's not everybody has that gift to get feedback, because as
Yeah.
creative people, it's very normal to maybe be like knee-jerk defensive, like, what do you mean it's too much work? It's you're worth the investment, you're worth the effort. It's
True.
just take it a chapter at a time. But the fact that that was not your response, that you were like, I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
how can I deliver?
Yes.
Because clearly they enjoyed the book, they they appreciated, they understood, and they
Yep.
felt like it contributed something worthwhile to them. And what they were saying to you is, oh, I would even like more if
Yeah.
it is easier to access. So kudos to you for just that ear and that heart for your
Thank you.
readers and their feedback. You're
Thank
welcome, of
you.
course.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for that brilliant explanation. And on a little bit of a lighter note, what it also made me think of is, and I don't know if this is like from the 80s or the 90s, but you remember when we like cosmetics went through this phase, or fashion, where it's like, you're a fall, you're a summer, you're a
Yep.
and when she
Yeah.
was explaining, it felt like that in a more substantial, like emotional,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll just show you one since we're talking so much about it. So I don't know if you can really see it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so essentially the color archetypes there are like 6 color archetypes, ranging from somebody being a trailblazer, which is you're not afraid of like doing bold new things,
Right.
to glow getter, which is like you actually can,
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
provide positivity and sunshine, and anchor is somebody who leads with heart.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's a connector, who's really good at bringing people together.
Yeah.
And then there's a dreamer who has the vision, like
Mhm.
big lofty vision.
Right.
And then
Right.
the nurturer, who's the caring one. So the
Right.
whole idea is all of us actually have all of these strengths, but we have one which is primary dominant strength. So the
Yes.
more we lean into it and understand how can we actually make it even better and shine
Right.
through in challenging times at
Yeah.
work and in life and relationships, the better
Now I
off we
want to
will
know
be.
what color I am. I would have to check it out. Now
Okay,
I
so
want
if
to
it says
know what color am I.
so that would be my gift to all of you on this panel, which is if you go to www.ownyourcolor.com,
Yeah.
there's a free quiz, which will tell you what color you are.
Oh, I love
Okay.
it.
I love that. Thank
I think we
you.
know what we're doing when we log off of here.
Yeah.
Heather, did you want to follow up before I ask another
No,
question? Did you
I
have?
mean
Okay.
I already interrupted a
Okay.
couple of
No, I
times, but
just
no,
want to make sure.
I'm excited to find out what color I am. That's really interesting. Thank you.
So when Shika was saying about how readers gave her feedback, and then it made me think of what Ivy was saying about her response to a silent treatment, and then what Jennia was saying about reading, kind of a variety of memoirs and recognizing patterns. What I wanted to ask, starting with Ivy, is what other memoirs have you read that have kind of resonated with you, whether just from your personal experience or even motivating you to think about how you want to compose your memoir, or even Jennia with your editing memoirs currently and in the future and things like that. So if I could start with Ivy, if you read something else that
Yeah.
motivated you?
One of the ones that we also read was In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, which was really interesting because it sounds like it could be like a very direct sort of memoir, and that it recounts her time where she had an abusive partner while the partner was
Right.
at the Iowa Writers Workshop, and she was finishing her own master's in a
Yeah.
different MFA program. But the way she goes at it is technically chronological, but each chapter mimics a type of genre. So
Mhm.
there'll be one that's like the dream house, which is the place she and her
Yeah.
girlfriend were living together
Yeah.
in Iowa, as like fairy tale or Bildungsroman
Mhm.
or slasher movie
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
whatever. And so what it does is these little interstitials of like maybe 2 pages, sometimes three or
Yeah.
four, where it's like if it's like a horror movie, it's this really bad um Halloween they had together, or if
Right.
it's literally as a fairy tale, it takes this sort of metaphorical couple pages about a journey where she realizes they're finally breaking up for real this time, and
Mm.
but it's really just told in this allegory about like the octopus queen and all this kind of stuff. And it's weird, but it's unusual. But what happens is when you go through each thing, it's
Yeah.
very a mix of like telling her story in a way that, because it's so many archetypes and genres
Yes.
explored, feels more universal, but
Mhm.
then also metatextual because she's using the very form of a variety of different types of literature to tell the story. So I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting to think about ways you can be metatextual as well as ways that you can use other types of genre or literary conventions and devices, because just because it's nonfiction doesn't mean you can't bring in some literary devices to express the emotions underneath.
Mm. Oh, I like that. And let's see, may I go to Jenya? Because I know your angle of approach is a little bit different because your maybe, and maybe this might not be the most accurate term, but maybe you're approaching memoir from a more kind of like critical structure examination angle, but it sounds like you also enjoy memoir. So maybe it's a
Yes,
combination. So
it
with
is.
all that said, it's, is there something a memoir you've read for pleasure, maybe not so much for work, but just for you were just interested in it, that, you know, generated, a strong response?
I've had a few recent podcast guests, and unfortunately, I'm going to forget the names and the titles because I don't really remember. That's why I usually have a stack of books sitting right next to my desk to list them on Goodreads so then I can go back and say, oh,
Right.
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 But unfortunately, I don't have Goodreads open right now.
Okay.
Um, but no, one was, and she used experimental prose, which I
Mm.
thought was brilliant. And so we do see text messages get used a lot in memoir, those back and forth conversations
Mm.
or parts of a letter or diary entries. But she had things like grocery lists in there. And I think she's talked about wanting to use a Venn diagram at one point too, and then scrapping it. But she had all these neat little ideas that she'd thrown in there. And so you might be reading along, and then suddenly here's a poem, or here's a written out note to herself that she'd stuck on a post-it note. And then it's put in there in the book like you're reading it in real time. But these are the sorts of things, in my opinion, that really pull us into that person's inner life. Because when you're writing to yourself without any filter, without thinking about who's going to read this or what it's going to sound like to somebody else, that feels more like the real you. That is your thought without any thought put into the thought. It isn't gone back over and refined and revised to perfection or to get across a certain mood or whatever it is you want to say in the most flowery language possible or to
Right,
best fit your author voice.
right, right.
Yes, and it's those little snippets that make me feel like I really know the person. And so whenever you see them included, it just is that little thrill of excitement because it's almost like a reminder that this person really exists. It is not just someone who churned out this book for you to read about the trauma or of whatever, or how they became a culinary genius, or whatever the theme is of that book.
I
No,
love
that's
that.
yeah, I like that too because in some ways it feels a little bit counterintuitive because what we're taught in the business of publishing is perfection, like
Yes.
refinement. Um, but it is the quirks, as you were saying, that
Yes.
that distinguish, that makes this person. Because even the grocery list part too, like grocery lists are very revealing
Yes,
about
they're very
like,
personal. You know, does
yeah,
someone need to know that you bought 10 boxes of Egos this week? Maybe that's your comfort food and you have
right,
four every night. You know, it doesn't, you're not going to go back and cross it out and say, just kidding, I bought a bag of cauliflower florets and dairy-free ranch dip.
right, right, plant-based, whatever.
Right.
That was funny, Cardyn. Grocery store lists are very revealing. I didn't ever think of it that way, but now I definitely am.
So, Shika, you were sharing about how much research you did for your memoir. So, did you even have time to read somebody else's memoir for pleasure or inspiration or perspective? Like, how did that unfold for you?
I actually did. I have two very favorite memoirs, one from Sheryl Sandberg Lenin and Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Mm,
And it was inspirational, but at the same time, going back to what Jennia was saying, right? It was also very, very authentic. It
mm,
did not feel like it was a book being written to impress. It
mm,
was a book right from the heart to actually make a difference.
mm,
And I took a lot of inspiration from Michelle's around how she shared, how she balanced, like, like making the right choices,
mm,
staying true to herself while being in the public eye as a mom, as a wife, and essentially just inspiring others, right? Like if she can do it, anybody can.
right.
We just need to believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
And what I really liked about Cheryl's book was how it's really, really hard to find support, especially in corporate America when you're trying to rise high and make a difference. So you find so many people. I see Quinn nodding vehemently, so I bet she's had some experience. So when you're rising high, you would find so many detractors ready to pull you down on one pretext or the other. But if you we, all of us as women, can actually end up being that support structure
Mhm,
to believe that there is enough for everybody and we all can rise together,
mhm,
then the future will be very different. So the reason I wrote the book was essentially for two things. One,
yeah,
stay authentic to who you are.
mhm,
I wasted a lot of years trying to blend in to American culture, realizing that I ended up losing myself.
mm,
And just when I said, you know what, this is who I am, these are my values, and I'm not going to negotiate or
mhm,
ignore those, I started focusing on my real values, which was
mhm.
giving back and philanthropy, which I had lost.
Yeah.
And that's why the book is all about mentorship and women supporting each other
Mm,
and us supporting kids and youth and just making the world better together.
mm,
So those two memoirs definitely spoke to me, and I tried to do my little bit
yeah.
via this book.
Oh, thank you. That's a great answer. So let me follow up a little bit to say you mentioned um, refocusing on some philanthropic um,
Yeah,
uh, things. What are there any particular ones you want to mention that are important to you?
sure. Yeah, sure. So I think I was doing stuff, but very transactionally and like start, stop, go.
Mm-hmm.
But I recommitted a lot of my weekends and my time by actually taking on board membership on for two specific nonprofits.
Oh.
One is Big Brother, Big Sister, which
Mhm.
actually benefits from the royalties from the book as well as the whole power toolkit.
Right, right, right.
And there's another one called One Project, which is to help student scholars become change makers, as well
Mm,
as they run like an annual hunger project.
okay.
So I recommitted to that. I ended up actually doing a lot of mentorship for many students in US as well as in Africa
Ooh,
and Singapore. So
yeah,
I'm like a mentor to many young women who are trying to figure out what their
yeah.
next is to be.
Will you say the name of that second organization one more time, please?
Project.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a New Jersey based
Okay.
organization.
Thank you.
If you would like to send the links to me, I would be happy to put them in the description
I'd,
of the episode. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to. Thank you,
Okay.
Heather.
So Shika led me to another thought. Again, I told you I'm very like, woo. But for Jennia and Ivy, so often with writing, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, the things of our hearts, the callings of our hearts, the philanthropic interests feed our creativity. For each of you, and I'll start with Jennia, um, is there one particular philanthropic um, focus that is near and dear to your heart?
Yes, so I feel very strongly about advocating for animals, animal rescues, bringing more animals out of shelters, promoting fostering and adopting, especially those animals that tend to have a higher chance of being put to sleep beyond. So, for instance, I just recently learned that newborn kittens who are still in need of being provided milk are the number one population that is unfortunately put to sleep.
No, I
And
didn't
yes,
know
that
that.
just devastated me to find
Yeah.
out. So I like to do things like sponsoring adoptions for people's birthdays instead of giving them a present, that sort of thing, sharing whenever I can. And I do have some books that I've edited before where proceeds go to helping animals in shelters where I've either done a greatly reduced editing rate and
Mm,
at least two where I've done them for free.
that's outstanding. And thank you for sharing that statistic. Even though it's disturbing, it's good to get that out there because I think Heather and I must not be the only people that don't know that statistic.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know, and I feel like I'm pretty in the loop on these things. You know, I'm
Right.
friends with other people who also do a lot of fostering and adopting and sharing, and yet I had never seen that come up. And I follow and participate in quite a few groups as well, doing what I can. But again, that was the first time reading it. And then as soon as I looked it up just to make sure it was true,
Right.
it was easily verified.
Mm.
Wowza.
So if you can foster kittens, please.
Please.
Yes.
And so, Ivy, is there a particular philanthropic interest for you?
I think what I have volunteered for in the past is, and they don't happen every year. It depends on what
Mhm.
charity they sort of pick to signal boost for. But a
Right.
lot of romance authors starting about 20 and 20, maybe even in 2018, but in midterm, I think in 2018 and 2020, and then
Mhm.
any election
Mhm.
year in
Right.
between,
Right.
has done this big charity auction called Romancing the Vote, where
Oh,
they
yeah,
would raise
yeah.
money to donate towards like action on the ground and through Act Blue and things for like the Georgia runoff election
Mhm.
and sort of the midterm House elections, and obviously in 2024 for Harris. And
Yeah.
so I would, promote that, but also like Jennia, because I also do editing, offer
Mm.
very discounted editing. And I did, when they had all the flooding from the hurricane back last September in Western North Carolina, the Western North Carolina Writers Association also needed people to donate their time as far as like if you would, be someone
Right.
who's open to being bid on. So when
Right.
I see a place where I can sort of offer discounted services
Yes.
to have people be able to bid, and then that money goes either to like romancing the vote or to emergency relief. I do believe in
Yeah.
doing that for sure.
Oh, that's all so outstanding. And again, Heather, before I go on, was there anything you wanted to follow up with?
I just want to. I have a question.
Sure.
I
Go.
would like because I would like to write a memoir at some point. I don't feel ready to do that yet, but I know there are a lot of other people who want to write memoirs, and so I just want to ask you for people who want to write memoirs, whether there's somebody like me who's written books before and knows about publishing books, or somebody who has never written a book. What is your advice for writing? What is your top advice for writing a memoir? And it can be anything from the creative side to the business side. It doesn't matter. Why don't we start with Jennia?
Well, first, I would ask if you are emotionally ready because it's going to be too difficult to bring all those memories back up if they are still fresh, if you're still processing them. And you're going to find that it might hurt you more than it's helping you if you're using it just as a processing tool because you're not going to have someone there to help guide you through them, to help you work through whatever is happening. And it could just be too much of an emotional gut punch over and over again. But you also need to have that distance so that you can look at it more analytically.
Mm,
Do I need to include this? Is this relevant to here? Is this really how this happened? Or am I letting my still fresh emotions shape this story rather than the truth, or rather than how I feel about it now that I can be critical about my part in it as well? So that would be number one. And then second would be to find your theme, because some people still confuse it with an autobiography where it's your life story, but it's not. We're just looking at a section of it. So if it's why you decided to become a nurse, we're going to look at something like what propelled you into filling out that nursing application. What about this was hard? What did you have to overcome in order to do it? That sort of thing. So it's not going to be here I was born. I always say it's not a Charles Dickens novel. We're not going to start off with your birth and your parentage and every disease you had as a child. We're likely going to be skipping a whole bunch of that and then skipping years in between as well. So that's something to keep in mind.
oh, that is great advice because the first thing I thought about writing a memoir about was my dad's death. And I was, I mean, I wanted to write it almost right away, but then every time I thought about it, I was so still in my feelings and rage about the whole way it all went down that I just I couldn't do it. Like I would get sick every time I tried to. So that is fantastic advice. I was like, maybe I should be writing about my teen years or when my teen pregnancy or something like that. So, but that's great advice. Thank you, Ivy.
Yeah, I wanted to second that part of it. My essay for class last semester was a lot of dealing with chronic illness, but I was looking back on some aspects of chronic illness I've struggled with that were, 15 years ago when I was much younger and stuff that had happened before, so I had a chance to process it. And I also agree with the you have to have a theme for it, or else it really is just a Charles Dickens story. I'd also like to add that I think with that, two things people have been talking about authenticity. I think part of authenticity, I think she kind of said the same thing in a way because she's talking about, um, sorry, Michelle Obama's sort of memoir and like being honest in it, or even Michelle Sandberg saying like when she couldn't lean in or when she felt conflict or when she felt like she couldn't do everything and sort of learning to like process past that. But just the idea that you have to be authentic, which means you're also willing to take a reflective self-inventory and like where you contributed to things that went, wrong that you might be highlighting in your memoir. Like it's not interesting. And I say this as someone who's also edited some memoirs over the years from clients. If you kind of present it where you've done nothing wrong and everybody else, the world's against, because life's more complicated than that, reality's more complicated than that. If you're taking that honest self-inventory, just try and present the things as they actually happen. And sometimes whatever happens, there's tragic events or tragic fights and it's you break up with someone and it goes both ways, like you have to admit that, okay, yeah, I left the towels on the floor all the time. Like you need to be honest and not want to paint a more rosy picture of yourself than there was. And I think one thing that helps with that is if you go back and look at things like old chat logs or Discord records, or if you keep journals, or if you were someone who was in school at the time, so you can even look back at your old notes and work there. Just if there are ways to corroborate things in time with the equivalent of contemporaneous memos or journal entries or whatever, then go back, look over your old grocery list or to-do list for those weeks. If you are someone who saves those a lot, then whatever you can try and corroborate really can help you. And whatever you might have left as sort of breadcrumbs of your life can help you get back into that mind frame you were in 5, 10, 20 years ago.
I'm trying to think if I've ever written down my Ben and Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk guilt night, like grief nights, you know. But yes, that is also, I mean, this is great. So thank you. That is excellent advice. And I'm locking these away. I'm writing them down as soon as I get off of here. And Shikha, could you please give me some and other potential memoirists and nonfiction writers that want to write about their life or about themselves or inspire anything inspiring? Please tell me what your top advice would be.
Yeah, I would second what Jenny and Ivy said. The only big addition I would do is you have to be very clear on the purpose as to why do you want to write a memoir. Is it to teach somebody something? Is it to leave a legacy? Is it just for you to uh, leave an inspiration? Like, what exactly is the purpose and who's your real audience? Once you have that clear, I think for it to really, really land, you have to be extremely thoughtful, very honest, and very vulnerable in sharing that. Because as an author, if whatever that purpose might be, the more honest you are, the more the reader will actually be able to put themselves in your shoes. And usually, memoirs do end up talking about how an incident happened or multiple incidents happened where you could have just given up on yourself or life or situation, but you didn't. And that whole transformation of a hero's journey where you are a hero, writing a memoir not to show up as a hero, but give that hope and courage to others, is what really connects the reader with the author. So I would say just be super honest and vulnerable in whatever you write, but be very clear on why are you writing and what do you want the reader to take away.
So that's good. That's a really good point because I hadn't even occurred to me about like the reason that I might be writing. Like initially when my dad died, it would have been out of rage, complete rage at the people who I felt helped cause that situation. But yeah, that's an excellent point. So all of these all fit together so nicely as a mini roadmap to how to, get that out. And I think the part that will be the hardest for me, and probably for everybody, is being completely honest about your own. Like, you can't be the Instagram version of yourself. You have to be your real, like, where did your mind lie? Where did you make mistakes? What were the things that were maybe embarrassing? I mean, nobody likes to be embarrassed, right? So that's excellent. Thank you so much. I love all of that advice, and I'm gonna let Cardyn tack onto that. She might have some additional questions.
No.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say is this conversation has been so encouraging, interesting, enlightening, amusing, thought provoking, all the good stuff. But I wanted to kind of round us up and say, what are you working on now? What's upcoming? If you let us know that, and then so we can round out, because Heather and I warned you before we started recording, we are very curious about writers and their processes and their projects and whatnot. So we can go. So I'm trying to keep us within
We're bad at it. We're bad at staying on schedule.
Within our time
We're just
boundaries.
like,
So,
oh, that's interesting. Tell us more.
yeah. So let me
We
try
want to
to
respect everybody. Yeah.
yes, let me try to be controlled and just say, please tell us what you've got coming up. Whether it's an upcoming release or an event. And let me start with Shikha.
Um, so as I said, I just recently launched what I call a power kit.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting when you kicked off this and you were talking about the power of writing and journaling and the neuroscience that, when you write things, it triggers something in your heart and your physical emotion of writing and in your brain. So I'm a big, big believer in that. And the book actually, as I said, was my way of giving back. So there is a six-minute secret tool called Mentor, where M stands for meditate, E stands for exercise, N stands for notate, T stands for thank, O stands for own, and R stands for read.
Oh.
And the power toolkit is that I've actually created this let me open it. This colorful journal where once you know your color,
Yeah.
there are affirmation cards
I
which
love
will
a
help us
journal.
decide. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So the reader said the book said own your color, but it's not in color. It was
Right.
printed in black.
Right.
So they were like, okay, you know what? Can you sprinkle more color in our life? So this is my
Yeah.
way of again adding more color.
Yeah.
You take the quiz, know what your color is,
Yeah.
take the affirmation card, and then the promises take 6 minutes for yourself for
Yeah.
6 weeks using this journal,
Oh,
and follow the mentor toolkit, which is
yeah.
just take 6 minutes,
Right.
1 minute each,
Yeah.
anytime during the day. If you do that while
Yes.
you're trying to figure out what
Yeah.
your big dream or your goal is, you will
Yeah.
be able to get there.
Oh.
Uh, so to do that, I'm actually hosting a lot of workshops,
Hmm.
help people create that vision board, figure out their goal and the roadmap to get to it, whether it's writing a memoir or
Right.
becoming a writer or
Right.
actually, getting a promotion in corporate
Right.
America. But that's what I'm working on in terms
Oh,
of.
outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that. Ivy, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'll be actually taking a expanded memoir class in the spring. So that's actually not that long because of how
Right.
fast semesters go. So I'll be starting in
Right.
January at Towson and it's part of my master's program.
Yes.
But I want to work on a sort of a funnier piece that I've had a lot of random part-time jobs, both as a student and just kind of trying to make it as a millennial.
Yeah.
And this particular essay that I'm hoping to write for this next class will be sort of the main sort of the veneer of it is talking about when I worked as a romance ghostwriter,
Hmm.
often focusing on some pretty outlandish like billionaire stories, etc.
Right.
But the sort of more true subject underneath is kind of a window into that freelance gig economy, what it's like to be someone who takes sort of random gig jobs, even if it's the most random job you can think of. So looking at like what that's been like for people who, especially in my generation and down to Gen Z, have become more and more gig work dependent.
That sounds very relevant.
Mhm.
And if you're going to do a humorous spin on it, count me in. So please let us know when that's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
we'll
But
we'll
yeah,
have to
thank you.
chat with you about it when you're ready.
I already want to read it.
Well, and so, Jennia, from your professional work, do you have an author's work that's to be released soon? What's going on with you?
Well, I always have authors having
Okay.
stuff released, but
Yes.
I did bring out, I'm not sure it'll show, this is my
Oh,
first
nice. Yeah.
game. This
Sunny
is
in the
based
round
on the dog
things.
you heard going chaotic in the background.
The
So that's
animal
like,
theme carries throughout.
yes,
The dog
and
And
was like, "Talk about my
it's a
book."
rescue dog.
and memoir authors and potential memoir authors who might need an editor, you can contact Jenya, and I will put her information in the. It's hard to find editors. I mean, I people think it's easy, but it's not. It's so you have to click with somebody. So, but if you have a memoir, I'm sorry to interrupt your. I didn't see the bottom of the book. Could you hold it up
Oh, I
again?
don't know if it'll show all the way since it's
Oh,
Oh,
blurred
oh,
there we
because of
go.
yeah, yeah. No,
the
Sunny in the
yes,
round things.
I
Yeah,
see.
beautiful.
yes.
Okay.
And then there's a standalone book coming out very soon, The House Without a Ghost. And then Sunny on Snafari is book two. And it's also with the illustrator. It will be coming out in the next few months.
Oh,
Okay.
those are great recommendations.
It's
Thank
just
you.
something fun to do after the seriousness of
Yeah.
editing all day and constantly making decisions and having to do what they call deep thinking. And so then
Hmm.
you can just be silly and
I love
just
it.
let it all out and not have to really overthink what you're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
you'll be able to find these, way to contact these folks, their socials, however they want you to contact them will be down in the episode description. And if you have any questions, you can always leave comments under this YouTube. And you can always email me at therightwomenbookfest@gmail.com. I can always give you additional information. If there's something in this episode that you saw that I didn't include a link to, go ahead and reach out to me at the WRITE Right Women bookfest@gmail.com. And thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time and your wisdom and your expertise, and just sharing that with everybody, because it's important. There's people that need this information, including myself. So thank you for I learned today that I definitely learned some stuff today. Cardyn, are you all
I
good
think
with your
I'm
advice?
good. Do I need to say
Okay.
anything other than just thank you for
Yeah.
this great conversation, great information, encouragement? It just was a really rewarding conversation, and we just really appreciate you. Thank you so much for making the time to have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. All right.
Um,
Well, have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.